A big thank you goes out to Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. The quintessential hero shot. I just couldn't pass it up. I've seen so many images from Eysturoy, or this ridge in Eysturoy, that I just couldn't help myself. And of course, I own a red jacket, so it's very cliche, but it's just a fantastic location. And I'm sure that if any of you have been to this spot or plan on going there, you'll probably end up taking more or less the same type of images. Now, I have seen a lot better ones than the one I took, or perhaps I should have backed my camera up a little bit just so I was a little bit smaller in the frame. But it was a really enjoyable trip up this ridgeline. Now, unfortunately, I didn't take very many shots from this location because I found it was more or less, you're following the same theme over and over again. The only difference is that you're more or less waiting for the weather to change. And that's not hard to do in the Faroe Islands because the weather changes every 5 minutes. 1 minute it might be snowing, and the next minute you might have some really dramatic light in the field or on the hills surrounding that inlet there. Now, this shot here doesn't work at all. It's just all wrong. The composition, having the subject directly in the center, the jacket is blue, not red, and the pose is really undesirable. The background is nice and blurry, but I think the composition with the red jacket works way better. Did I mention that the weather changes every 5 minutes in the Faroe Islands? So after we'd taken a couple of images on the ridgeline there, the weather got a little bit grim, so we decided to head back down to the car, and sure enough, as soon as we got to the car, the weather changed again. So the lads and I decided to do a little bit more exploring not far from the car, and actually just above the road from where we parked, I found this great little spot that had just enough interest in the foreground to kind of relate with the background. I think this might be an old stone wall, I'm not sure, but there was a little bit of snow, lots of texture, and the light was just beautiful. There was soft light with all these puffy clouds, but it looked a little bit menacing in the background there. Now, I wasn't able to include the whole field, but I think this works quite well because it just has some lovely textures and almost pastel greens in there. So at the end of the day, I actually prefer this shot over the other one because it's something a little bit different to what everybody else was taking in the area. And I also liked the fresh snow in the mountains. It added a lot more interest to the scene. Have you got your trail lube?
I have my trail lube and my chocolate.
What are you taking for trail lube?
I'm taking a can of Schlup Beer Deluxe. It's actually quite good, but it's 5.8%. It's a bit potent.
Right, with our strong trail lube all packed away for those long waits on top of those tall cliffs. Captain Hardcastle and our crew decided to take the ferry over to the island of Kalsoy. Now, I've only ever seen one image that I can recall from Kalsoy, and that was kind of our objective. And the scene is somewhat of a familiar one to perhaps some of you. It's a small lighthouse perched on a hillside, but surrounding that lighthouse are these absolutely epic cliffs. I hate to use the word epic, but they really are epic. One of the cliffs has to be close to, I'm guessing, 1,000 feet high, which just looks so dramatic coming straight out of the ocean. And the waves crashing down below, it really is a sight to behold. Now, to get to Kalsoy, you have to take a ferry, and then there are a number of tunnels that'll take you to a small parking area where there's the trailhead and a small farm. Hi everybody, trying to find some shelter here from the wind. It's absolutely freezing. Oh, so I've come here with Gavin and friends to Kalsoy. There's a viewpoint up on the hill here that has a lighthouse, and it's a classic, iconic view. But I've seen the images of it. It looks really nice. There was a bit of light on this cliff back here earlier on, but it's socked right in again. But it's absolutely freezing and very windy. I'll hike on up. Hopefully I won't get blown off the ridge, and I don't know how long I'm going to stay up there for though, because it is really cold. So if I can manage to stay up there for an hour, hopefully the light will come through again, and well, we'll see what happens. All right. All right, after a bit of a dicey walk along this ridge here, I mean, it wouldn't be so bad without wind, but with a bit of wind, you know, it's a little scary, because I mean, it's not the slope that'll kill you or the cliff, it's the sudden stop at the end. But we've made it to this absolutely incredible cliff, and then we have the lighthouse here. And there's some great light. I don't know if you can see that right in the background here, but it looks like we've got another system coming through behind me. As you can see behind me here, it's looking quite gloomy. But what I'm finding with this area is that the weather will just be absolutely horrible, and then after about 20 minutes, half an hour, it'll clear up again. And especially with this kind of wind, you just can't predict what kind of light and weather you're going to get. So I'm going to try and stick it out here as long as I can, and hopefully we'll get a few clearings. What we really need is a little bit of sun on the lighthouse or the cliff, just to give it a bit of separation. Right now it's looking rather gloomy and quite scary, actually. Uh-oh, here comes, it's either going to be rain or snow. Okay, now despite the ever-changing weather, I did manage to actually get a photograph of the lighthouse and those amazing cliffs. When we first arrived at this location, there was some beautiful light on the cliffs in the background with a little bit of fresh snow. So I took a quick 4 vertical shot pano, and that ended up being the only shot with decent light on the lighthouse and the surrounding area. Now, what I wasn't expecting was the beautiful light that we would get while we were waiting for light to hit that cliff and the lighthouse. And I actually preferred the images that I got while we were waiting. The light moving across the ocean was just absolutely beautiful. So I just concentrated on that. And I found this many times in the past. If you just concentrate on the light, then you're halfway there to making great images. Many times we get so hung up on the main attraction of our location that we forget to look at what's happening around. And even though the weather was miserable, the beams of light and the odd breaking of the clouds would just produce these beautiful little moments of light hitting whatever. It could be a cliff or the ocean. And when I processed these images, I just decided to lighten up the light areas as much as possible so that they're almost white. And in many cases, I didn't have to darken the clouds too much because it was really brooding. And you have to remember that when you're photographing such extremes in contrast between highlights and shadows, if you're exposing for the highlights, then your shadows are going to be extremely dark anyway. So most of my raw files, the clouds are extremely dark. So that works great. It's a great contrast, and it really adds a lot of mood and drama to these photographs. These were probably my favorite photographs from the whole trip. And the funny thing is, there's no landscape in there whatsoever. These could have been taken anywhere in the world. It just happens that I was in the Faroe Islands when I took them. These are the types of images that I really enjoy taking. They're more expressive, and they say more about me than just going to an area and photographing the usual iconic spots. Right, I gave up. The other guys are still standing out there, but it's just miserable. Freezing cold. Doesn't look like the light is going to change. I know what's going to happen. We're going to walk down, and of course the light's going to get good. It always does. But as it stands right now, I mean, it's not looking good. We keep getting inundated with hail, wind, rain. You name it, but no sun. If there was a bit of sun mix in there, then it would be great. Now and then the cliffs behind me will get a bit of sun, so I took some shots of the sun kind of hitting the cliffs, and but then I just noticed that I have lots of water drops on my lens, so they might not come out. And then I took some shots of the sun hitting the ocean, which are really quite nice. I don't know if you can see this, but just there's a beautiful ray of light hitting the ocean there. And actually I might stick my lens on and see if I can get a shot of that. All right. Right then, once again, I'd like to thank Squarespace for sponsoring this week's video. Now, since you've spent all of your time making beautiful images, why not display them on a professional looking website? Squarespace is an all-in-one platform that offers a multitude of elegant and stylish templates that will enhance any photography portfolio. Squarespace has all of the tools that you need to highlight your work, and if you desire, set up shop to sell that work. Now, the best part about Squarespace is that there is no coding involved. You'll be up and running in no time, which is fantastic for middle-aged old farts like me who know absolutely nothing about coding or actually computers. And if you run into trouble, Squarespace provides award-winning 24/7 customer support via live chat and email. And if that's not enough, you can always attend a live webinar or check out their always available help guides. So what are you waiting for? You've taken the images, now show the world what you've created with a beautifully designed website from Squarespace. Head to squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/Adam Gibbs to save 10% off your first purchase. Yes, that's right, folks. Squarespace.com/Adam Gibbs to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain. All right, everybody, I hope you enjoyed this video as much as I enjoyed taking the photographs. The next few weeks I'm going to be away off to Greenland and then the Rockies, so I am hoping to have a video out each weekend, but I may miss a weekend here or there. So if I do miss one, then you'll know why. I'm probably away. But the good news is that I should have some really great coverage of some new areas, so stay tuned for those. Alright, if you enjoy this video, please be sure to give me a thumbs up, and as always, if you enjoy the content of my channel, be sure to subscribe. Thanks very much. Bye for now.